is an SABC News presentation.
It has just gone 8 o'clock and you are watching A View from the House, coming to you live from the SABC studios in Parliament, Cape Town. Good morning and welcome. My name is Lukhanyo Khalada. Now in our program this morning, the Minister of Public Works gives us a progress report on an investigation into fraud, corruption and maladministration in the Department of Public Works. Later in our program, we focus on challenges faced by traditional leaders. We will also bring you Deputy President Kgalema Motlante's replies to questions in the National Assembly. Let's now go to our first item. Now, the Special Investigations Unit has already uncovered corrupt activities that amount to billions of rands in the Department of Public Works. The SIU was requested by the department to investigate specific contracts, leasing of buildings for client departments, prestige accommodation and general procurement irregularities. The Ministry of Public Works says the SIU has investigated about 40 cases, of which 13 have been finalized. Cases relating to corruption, fraud and maladministration that have already been completed amount to billions of rands.
In Braamfontein, the department paid 28 million rand for 6 unoccupied buildings. Public Works has begun civil proceedings to recover the money. The Herbert Baker lease was procured irregularly and the department is seeking to recover 6.3 million rand. At a border post in the northwest, an unjustified payment of 50.8 million rand was uncovered. Civil proceedings have been instituted to recover 50 million rand. Criminal proceedings are also underway. At border posts in the northwest, KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga, fruitless and wasteful expenditure of 3.5 million rand was uncovered. 7 officials are facing disciplinary action for authorizing payments without supporting documentation. Following irregular procurement of the SAPS Middestad lease in Pretoria, Public Works approached the High Court to declare the lease invalid, resulting in a saving of 780 million rand for the department. The SAPS lease at Transnet, awarded irregularly, was cancelled, saving the department 1.86 billion. Of the 27 million rand spent on renovation of ministerial houses in Pretoria, 4.7 million rand was paid without supporting documents. In Cape Town, 100 million rand was spent on renovating 11 houses. Renovation costs for the Public Works head office in Pretoria skyrocketed from an initial 59 million rand to 325 million on completion.
In a recorded interview, my colleague Mkhokheli Thanda asked the Minister of Public Works, Thulas Nxesi, to respond to claims that maladministration, fraud and corruption remains deeply rooted at the Department of Public Works, and nothing has changed since he took office. Let's pick up on Mr. Nxesi's response.
My view is that a lot is changing. We might not be there where we want to be. But it's a fact that as we dig on corruption, we're stumbling even on more corruption on some of the areas. Hence, we have decided to take a view to say, let's just investigate everything, all the major projects. And however, we have now passed a stage where we're just lamenting. We are rebuilding a department. We have a very clear plan. We have started putting those plans of rebuilding the department. And we have already put a team, which is at the level of the DG. And remember, we also talked about stabilizing the leadership. We've appointed a DG, we've appointed a CFO. We're restructuring the DDGs now. And we are putting a very strong supply chain team, and we're putting it as a branch. Risk management is also a particular branch, and we are establishing also our own specialized compliance and investigative unit to deal with a number of areas. So in terms of our own way forward, or we are really reconstructing the department. In one of the areas, I can even tell you that we're putting joint technical teams together with the client departments where we're insourcing the engineers, the architects, and even project managers to deal specifically with the various clients.
We'd want to talk about the supply chain management at a later stage, but Minister, you are on record saying there are syndicates of corrupt officials in the department who are stealing billions of rands of taxpayers' money. What have you done up until now in rooting up such elements?
We told you that the investigations, they are going to take their own course. By their nature, they are very slow. But out of those investigations, we have been able to charge a number of officials, and we continue to charge some of the officials. A DDG in one case is already out. Some DDGs have been charged, or one DDG was also a former acting head of the department, has been charged. A number of officials have been charged, and these are happening in the different areas. We've been constructing the border posts. A number of border posts, we have discovered corruption. We've discovered it in the leases. Some people have already been thrown away. Criminal cases have been opened. The very headquarters of the department, which was started at 59 million as the original price, has ended up at more than 300 million. On that one, we have started the investigation. The very prestige houses, we have finished the investigations in Pretoria. We're going to charge people. You've heard about the other prices, overpricing in Cape Town. That investigation has already begun. Because we've realized that we're spending 100 million in just a few houses. So on all those things, we are just on top of them.
The supply management is another area with deep-rooted corruption. How bad is the situation, and what corrective measures have you put in place thus far?
That is why we've started a project with the Treasury, so that we put very proper structures there. We have decided to make it as a branch on its own, where we are going to have a head of the supply chain separate from the finances. So is the risk management of the department when you're dealing with huge tenders. We have put a branch on its own, and we are reconstructing that whole particular branch and trying to bring the people with the necessary skills.
There has been a national outcry with regard to the use of consultants. Are you using consultants in rebuilding the department, and if so, how much are you spending on them?
There's one thing which you must accept, Kokeli, that if you're dealing with technical areas, you want engineers, you want architects, project managers, technologists. And there's one thing you must accept. If you're dealing with property, you want property managers, property lawyers, property economists. You're not going to use your administrators or your clerks as those people. If you don't have, if you want to run a property department, you will have to insource it. But the difference should be, whilst you are insourcing that, you're training and you're trying to recruit others to be full-time. So for now, as a turnaround, we can't avoid it unless we want to continue with the chaos. And I can tell you, in building the asset register, we have those people. In bringing about the clean audit, we have those people. And what we have done, Treasury has given us about 600 million for turnaround. But what that money is for, is for us to recruit the right technical skills. But people deliberately have misinformed the people that this is for outsourcing. It's not for outsourcing. What is it for? It's for us to recruit the right technical skills into the department in terms of what I've just mentioned.
Minister, some political commentators are of the view that a blatant, irregular and wasteful expenditure continues unabated in your department, with recent reports of about 65 million rands spent in the renovation of certain ministers' homes. How do you justify such an expenditure?
Unfortunately, these are what we are investigating. They have not started last year or year before. These are old contracts which were there, some as early as 2007, 2009. But contracts have already been entered into with the various companies. You can't just simply jump out of those things. All you will have to do is to investigate whether the pricing was correct. And if the pricing was not correct, then you will also have to deal with those particular companies. So you can't simply jump out of that. There will be serious litigation and we can end up losing.
What's the latest developments with regard to investigations on inflated costs and prices for the development of the President's residence at Nkandla?
We have indicated in our report that since we have been able to get those irregularities, we wanted the SIU to help us. And we have met with the SIU. we will leave the matter there. Once they are ready with the report, they will tell us. But remember, if it's an investigation, we should not trouble them. Let's wait for the report. But we've met with them to talk about the brief on the areas we want to be investigated.
You initially indicated that the report will be made public, the investigations report will be made public, and later changed your mind. Why so? And is the report not a matter of public interest?
I indicated that we will share the outcome of the report. The outcome of the report, not the report itself, because the report itself, it has security implications for the president. And I've shared what were the issues which were troubling us. I've talked about the figures, I've talked about the irregularities, but I've even talked about the process we're engaging in terms of investigating further those irregularities. And I've talked about the bodies which are independent of us, because remember, this was an internal investigation, because we want this report to be as objective as we can. So that's why we talked about the SIU. Even that, the outcome of that, we'll still share with the public.
Minister, finally, the rebuilding the department and the turnaround strategy, do you have any time frames? How soon is this likely to be concluded?
The rebuilding of the department is not going to be an event. We've talked about the stabilization period of 2 years. We've talked about a medium approach which talks about 4 to 5 years. But now with the Treasury, we've agreed on a 7-year long plan which talks about the different stages, because to think that we are going to recruit these right people, it's not just going to be over a day. To think that we are going to train a lot of people inside, it's not just going to be an event. It is a process. But the first one is that stabilize. As you stabilize, continue to give the service which you are supposed to do. Hence, you're relying on insourcing, which might be for some time. And then in the meantime, you're putting long-term plans.
That interview with the Minister of Public Works was recorded earlier by my colleague Umkhokheli Thanda. It's time now for a break. When we return, we focus on challenges faced by traditional leaders. Please stay tuned.